Visualize the chains of your debt not just breaking, but being violently shattered by a divine hand. For too long, you have operated under a curse of not enough, believing struggle was your identity. But today, that spiritual contract is nullified by God's holy decree. This isn't just hope. This is the irreversible LAW of wealth that Napoleon Hill discovered but dared not call by its true name: divine intervention. Prepare yourself. The command has been given to multiply your income and overtake every financial burden you carry. The flood is imminent. You have been standing in the silence, watching the calendar turn its pages while your bank account remains unmoved. You have prayed with tears streaming down your face, wondering if God heard you, questioning if you somehow missed the call, if perhaps you were not chosen for the breakthrough you see landing on others. The weight of the unpaid bills sits on your chest at 3 in the morning, and you have asked yourself the question that haunts every believer in the valley: how much longer must I wait? But what you have been calling silence was never absence. What you have been calling delay was never denial. The stillness you have endured was not God ignoring your cry. It was the ocean pulling back before the tsunami. And that sound you hear now, that rumble beneath your faith, is not your imagination. It is the roar of the flood that has already been released. The divine decree was signed before you even opened your eyes this morning. The command to multiply your income and overtake your debt is not coming. It is here. It is active. And you are standing at the exact coordinates where the wave makes landfall. The decree is not a prayer request you submit and wait for approval. It is the final verdict of the highest court in existence, and that verdict has already been delivered. The universe has been commanded to realign every financial force around your life. The spiritual atmosphere that held your debt in place has been overruled by a power that does not negotiate, does not reconsider, and does not fail. You are not preparing for the flood. You are in it. And what happens next depends entirely on whether you understand the laws that govern this divine intervention, because a flood can carry you to the promised land or drown you in your own doubt. Let me be absolutely clear about what is happening. The waiting you endured was not wasted time. Every single day you spent wondering if your faith was strong enough. Every night you cried yourself to sleep with anxiety about money. Every moment you felt forgotten by heaven was not punishment. It was preparation. The delay was not God testing your patience. It was God building the infrastructure in the unseen realm to handle the magnitude of what He is about to release. You cannot contain a tsunami in a teacup. The vessel of your life, your mindset, your understanding of divine law had to be expanded to hold what is coming, and it has been. The preparation is complete. The floodgates are open, and you are about to discover why you had to wait. There are 3 laws that govern this divine overtake, 3 principles that Napoleon Hill discovered in his research of the wealthiest minds in history but could never fully articulate because he lacked the spiritual language to name them. He called them by secular terms, wrapped them in the vocabulary of success psychology, but what he was really documenting was divine law operating through human vessels. These are not suggestions. These are not techniques you try when you feel motivated. These are the immutable laws that dictate how wealth moves from the spiritual realm into your physical bank account, and if you violate them, you stop the flood at your doorstep. If you honor them, you become the channel through which sudden debt annihilation flows, and your income multiplies in ways that make no logical sense to the rational mind. The first law is the law of commanded faith. Hill called it definiteness of purpose. But that phrase is too soft, too passive for what this really is. This is not about setting a clear goal. This is not about writing down what you want and hoping the universe cooperates. This is about understanding that you do not beg God for wealth. You do not plead with heaven to maybe, possibly, if it is His will, send you a breakthrough. You command the outcome based on the decree that has already been issued. You enforce the verdict that was signed in the courts of heaven before time began. You operate with the authority of someone who knows the flood is coming because God Himself told you it was, and nothing, absolutely nothing, can stop a word that has left the mouth of the Almighty. This is where most believers fail, and this is why most prayers for financial breakthrough go unanswered. not because God did not hear them, not because God does not care, but because the prayer was delivered in the language of begging instead of the language of command. You approach the throne like a homeless person asking for spare change instead of approaching it like a son or daughter claiming their inheritance. There is a massive difference between those two postures, and the universe responds only to the second one. When you command, you activate the law. When you beg, you reinforce the lack. Let me show you how this works in the physical world. In 1934, during the depths of the Great Depression, there was a man on the edge of total financial ruin. His business had collapsed. His debts were crushing him. Every logical indicator said he was finished. But this man had discovered the law of commanded faith, though he did not call it by that name. Instead of praying for rescue, instead of hoping for a miracle, he made a decision that defied every ounce of common sense. He acted as if the decree had already been executed. He walked into his creditors' offices not with desperation, but with absolute certainty. He spoke with the calm authority of someone who knew the debt was already handled, not because he had the money, but because he had the decree. And within 72 hours, a reversal happened that no one could explain. $50,000, an amount equivalent to millions in today's economy, appeared through a series of events that seemed orchestrated by an invisible hand. The money came, the debt vanished, and the man walked free, not because he hoped it would happen, but because he commanded it as a spiritual law. That is the power of commanded faith. It does not wait for evidence. It does not monitor the circumstances. It declares the outcome as already accomplished and then watches as reality bends to match the declaration. This is not positive thinking. This is not the law of attraction dressed in religious language. This is the activation of a divine decree through a human voice that understands its authority. So, here is your first command. Force your mind shut to doubt. Not gently, not gradually. Force it. When the thought comes that this will not work for you, that you are not special enough, that your situation is too complicated, you do not entertain that thought. You do not analyze it. You do not give it space to make its case. You shut the door in its face with absolute violence because that doubt is not truth. It is the resistance of the old order trying to maintain control. And you are no longer under that jurisdiction. Commanded faith means you command the outcome and you accept the decree as law, regardless of what your emotions are telling you, regardless of what your bank account is showing you, regardless of what your past has taught you. Here is the creed you will speak, not think, speak out loud, with the force of someone who knows they are enforcing a legal verdict. I am not a beggar of fortune. I am the enforcer of God's holy decree. Say it until it stops feeling like a script and starts feeling like identity. Say it until the words carry weight in the atmosphere. Say it until you hear the shift in your own voice from hope to certainty. And understand this. If you ignore this first command, if you reject the law of commanded faith and go back to begging, hoping, wishing, you reject the decree itself. You tell the universe that you do not believe the verdict was real, and the flood of abundance that was rushing toward you will recede before it ever reaches your accounts, not because God withdrew it, but because you refused to open the gate. The flood cannot override your free will. It can only go where it is commanded to go by a voice that believes it has the right to command. The first seal is broken. The first law is activated. But there is a second enemy, a second blockage, and it is the one most believers never address. It is the enemy of debt itself. You have been conditioned to see debt as a financial problem that requires a financial solution. You need more money, so you work harder, you cut expenses, you negotiate payment plans, and you slowly, painfully try to dig yourself out of the hole. But debt is not primarily a financial issue. Debt is a spiritual force. It operates on a frequency of fear, lack, and scarcity. And as long as you are on that frequency, you are a magnet for more debt, not less. You attract the very thing you are trying to escape because you are resonating with it. The law of magnetic debt reversal is the principle that shifts your frequency from fear to dominion, and when that shift happens, debt cannot cling to you anymore. It has nothing to attach to. Napoleon Hill called this the mastermind principle, and he taught that surrounding yourself with the right people would elevate your thinking and your results. That is true on one level, but it is not the full picture. The mastermind Hill was really pointing to is not a boardroom of advisors. It is the alignment of your spirit with the divine treasurer, with God himself, who owns every resource in existence and who has already allocated a portion of that wealth to you. When you align with that frequency, when you tune your internal receiver to the signal of abundance that God is broadcasting, you create a new magnetic center in your life. And everything that operates on the old frequency of debt, fear, and scarcity loses its grip. The polarity reverses. This law has produced results that institutions cannot explain. There are documented cases of crushing debts being mysteriously forgiven, of paperwork being lost in the system, of massive balances being settled for pennies on the dollar, not through negotiation, not through bankruptcy, but through what appears to be a sudden shift in the spiritual atmosphere around the debtor. The creditor simply lets it go. The collection agency stops calling. The lawsuit is dropped. And when you ask how it happened, there is no logical explanation. The only answer is that the decree was enforced, the frequency shifted, and the debt became illegal under divine law. Here is what you must do. Stop visualizing the red numbers. Stop checking your balance with dread. Stop rehearsing the story of how deep in debt you are. Every time you do that, you feed the blockage. You strengthen the very force you are trying to escape. Instead, start visualizing the overtake. See the debt as illegal, as a fraudulent claim that has no authority over someone who is under the decree. This is not denial. This is not ignoring reality. This is recognizing that there are two realities operating simultaneously: the physical reality of the numbers on the screen and the spiritual reality of the decree that has already nullified those numbers. And the spiritual reality always overrides the physical reality when you align with it. The creed for this second law is this: my wealth is commanded by God, my debt is illegal under the decree. The verdict is final. Speak this with absolute conviction. Not as something you hope will become true, but as something that is already true. And you are simply announcing it. You are not trying to convince God to intervene. You are reminding the universe of the decision that has already been made. And here is the warning. If you focus on the debt for even 1 minute after hearing this, if you allow your mind to spiral back into the anxiety and the calculations and the fear, you feed the blockage. You choke the sudden debt annihilation at its source. The flood is trying to reach you, but it cannot flow through a channel clogged with fear. You must make a decision right now. Will you align with the frequency of the decree, or will you align with the frequency of the debt? You cannot do both. Choose. You have commanded faith. You have reversed the polarity. The laws are activated. But there is a third and final principle, and this is the one that separates those who experience the breakthrough from those who remain stuck in perpetual preparation. This is the law of the immediate overtake. Napoleon Hill demanded decision, and he was right to do so. But what he was really describing was the martial phase of faith, the moment when you stop waiting and you start acting like the battle is already won. The decree has been issued. The flood is coming, but the opposition, the spirit of debt and lack that has been feeding off your life, is not going to surrender quietly. It feels the tsunami rising, and it is desperate. It will throw every doubt, every obstacle, every logical argument at you to convince you to wait just a little longer, to be reasonable, to not act until you have more evidence. And if you listen to that voice, you lose. Not because the decree was revoked, but because you failed to occupy the territory that was already given to you. This is not patience. This is violent, immediate spiritual occupation. You act as if the wealth is already in your account. You command as if the debt is already annihilated. You give, you spend, You move with the confidence of someone who knows the resources are on the Klee's way because the decree guaranteed them. This does not mean you make foolish financial decisions. This means you stop operating from a mindset of scarcity and you start operating from a mindset of dominion. You make the phone call you have been avoiding because you were afraid of rejection. You launch the project you have been delaying because you thought you needed more capital. You take the step that logic says is premature, but faith says is right on time. This is the mindset that turns a $10 idea into a $1 million enterprise before the resources are even visible. The action forces the resources to appear. The movement of faith validates the decree and pulls the physical provision into alignment with the spiritual verdict. You do not wait for the sudden debt annihilation. You seize it. You do not hope for the income multiplication. You execute it. And the universe, bound by divine law, has no choice but to respond. The creed is this: the battle is over. The wealth is mine. I am executing the overtake. Not I will execute. I am executing. Present tense, current reality, finished fact. And the warning is severe. Hesitation is treason against the decree. If you wait one more day out of fear, if you delay one more hour because you want more proof, you signal to the universe that you doubt God's power, and the flood will be diverted to someone who is ready to act. Not because God plays favorites, but because the law requires a vessel that is open and moving. Stagnant water becomes toxic. Flowing water brings life. Be the flow. The laws are set. The objections are about to be crushed. But I need to pause here because I know what you are thinking. I know the resistance that is rising in your chest right now as you hear these commands. So, let me address it directly. You are thinking, but I have tried affirmations. I have spoken declarations. I have believed, and nothing changed. In fact, things got worse. I am drowning in debt, not overcoming it. The flood is not reaching me. It is passing me by. If this decree is real, why am I still struggling? Here is the truth you need to hear, and I am going to deliver it with the force it deserves. You are confusing your feelings with God's facts. The holy decree is not dependent on your emotions. It is not contingent on your confidence level. It is not activated by your perfect faith or deactivated by your doubt. The decree exists because divine authority issued it, and divine authority does not require your permission or your emotional agreement to execute its will. The overtake is happening despite your doubt, not because of your certainty. Your job is not to generate the power. Your job is to stop blocking it. The decree is not a request. It is a verdict. And verdicts are not suggestions. They are legal, binding, enforceable realities that exist whether you feel them or not. The problem is not that the flood is not coming. The problem is that you are still monitoring the problem instead of monitoring the evidence of the decree. You are so focused on the size of the debt, the emptiness of the account, the impossibility of the situation, that you miss the small signs that the overtake has already begun, the penny you found on the ground, the unexpected discount, the bill that was slightly lower than expected, the phone call that came at exactly the right moment, the fact that this video appeared in your feed right now. These are not coincidences. These are evidences. These are the first drops of rain before the storm, and if you dismiss them as too small to matter, you train yourself to be blind to the very miracles you are praying for. Stop monitoring the problem and start monitoring the evidence. Shift your focus right now, not later, not when you feel better, now, because the direction of your attention determines the direction of your life, and if your attention is locked on the debt, on the lack, on the fear, then that is the frequency you are broadcasting, and the universe will deliver more of what you are focusing on. Shift now. If you are still standing here, if you have not turned this off in skepticism or fear, then you are ready. You are ready to enforce the decree with your own voice. And I need you to do something that will feel awkward, that will feel vulnerable, but that will seal this spiritual contract. I need you to comment one word below. The word is decree. Type it, post it. Let your written presence in this moment be the signature that activates the law in your life, not as magic, not as superstition, but as an act of obedience to a principle that has been working since the foundation of the world. Do it now. Comment decree, and then come back, because we are not finished. The final activation is ahead. But before we enter the final activation, I need to address the voices that are screaming in your mind right now. These are not random thoughts. These are the objections that have kept you imprisoned in the cycle of financial bondage for years, maybe decades. And if we do not dismantle them with surgical precision right now, they will sabotage the decree the moment you walk away from this message. They will whisper their poison in the middle of the night. They will rise up when you try to speak the command. They will paralyze you when it is time to act. So we are going to confront them one by one, and I am going to show you not just why they are wrong, but why they are designed to keep you exactly where you are. The first objection rises up in almost every believer who has been waiting for breakthrough. Why is God taking so long? I have been faithful. I have prayed. I have fasted. I have given my tithes even when I could not afford to. I have served in the ministry. I have believed with everything in me. And yet, year after year, I watch other people receive their miracles while I am still stuck in the same financial prison. Why them and not me? What is wrong with me that God is withholding the blessing? Have I been forgotten? Have I done something that disqualified me without realizing it? Listen to me very carefully, because this answer is going to shift the entire foundation of how you see your waiting. God is not delaying your blessing. God is compounding it. When a farmer plants a seed, there is a season where absolutely nothing is visible above the ground. The soil looks barren. The field looks empty. If you judge the success of that seed by what you could see in the first week, the first month, even the first several months, you would assume the seed was dead. You would assume the planting was a failure. But beneath the surface, hidden from every eye, an entire root system is forming. The seed is pulling nutrients from deep in the earth. It is anchoring itself. It is preparing for the weight of the harvest it is about to produce. And the deeper those roots go, the greater the harvest they can sustain. Your waiting is not waste. Your waiting is the root system. Every day you stayed faithful when you saw no evidence. You were going deeper. Every night you cried yourself to sleep, wondering if God heard you. The roots were spreading wider. Every moment you chose to believe when logic screamed at you to give up, you were building the capacity to hold what is coming. And what is coming is so massive, so overwhelming, so far beyond what you have been asking for, that if it had come 3 years ago, it would have destroyed you. You were not ready. The vessel of your character, the strength of your faith, the depth of your understanding was not sufficient. You would have taken the blessing and mishandled it. You would have worshipped the gift instead of the giver. You would have become proud, entitled, disconnected from your source. So God made you wait, not as cruelty, but as protection. He was building the foundation strong enough to hold the skyscraper. The reason it has taken this long is because what God is releasing to you is generational. It is not just for you. It is for your children. It is for your lineage. It is wealth that will break the curse of poverty that has plagued your family for decades. And wealth of that magnitude requires preparation of that magnitude. The timing is not late. The timing is precise. The roots are finally deep enough. The vessel is finally strong enough. And the flood that is about to hit your life will prove that every single day of waiting was worth it. The second objection cuts even deeper, and it is the one that most believers will not admit out loud because it sounds too much like doubt. I am not good enough. I am not holy enough. I have made too many mistakes. My past is too stained. My present is too messy. I see the way I lose my temper. I see the way I still struggle with the same sins. I see the way my thought life is not pure. And when I look at the people God blesses in Scripture, they were righteous. They were chosen. They were set apart. But me, I am broken. I am flawed. I am inconsistent. Who am I to command wealth when I cannot even command my own mind? Who am I to claim a decree when I do not feel worthy of it? This objection is the most dangerous one because it sounds humble. It sounds like spiritual awareness. It sounds like you are being honest about your condition, but it is not humility. It is pride in reverse. It is the pride that says your worthiness matters more than his decision. It is the pride that says your performance is more powerful than his promise. And it is a lie that will keep you poor for the rest of your life if you do not renounce it right now. The decree is not based on your holiness. It is based on his holiness. You are not trying to earn the flood. You are not trying to become good enough to qualify for the overtake. The decree was issued before you were born. It was signed in the courts of heaven based on the worthiness of Jesus Christ, and his worthiness is infinite, unchanging, and eternally sufficient. Your righteousness, or lack of it, is completely irrelevant to the execution of this decree. What is relevant is the blood of the covenant that declared you righteous whether you feel righteous or not. The moment you try to make this about your goodness, you nullify the cross. You say that Jesus' sacrifice was not enough, that you have to add your performance to it to make it work, and that is not faith. That is religion, and religion will keep you in bondage. God does not bless you because you are good. God blesses you because he is good. Your character does not activate the decree. Your covenant does. And that covenant was ratified by blood, not by behavior. So stop disqualifying yourself. Stop rehearsing your failures as evidence that you do not deserve this. The question is not whether you deserve it. The question is whether he decided it. And he did. The verdict is final. You are in. The flood is yours. Not because you earned it, but because he declared it. Receive it. The third objection is the one that traps the intellectual mind, the analytical thinker, the person who has been educated to question everything. What if this is just my imagination? What if I am making this up? What if this is just the power of positive thinking dressed up in spiritual language? What if I speak these declarations and nothing is really happening in the unseen realm? What if the decree is not real and I am just deluding myself, wasting my time, setting myself up for disappointment? Here is the truth that will anchor you when this doubt rises. Faith is not the absence of uncertainty. Faith is the decision to act in the presence of uncertainty. You do not need to feel certain to be obedient. You do not need to have absolute proof to move forward. In fact, the entire architecture of faith requires that you move before you see, that you speak before the evidence appears, that you command before the manifestation validates your command. If you wait until you are absolutely sure, until every doubt is gone, until the proof is undeniable, you are not operating in faith. You are operating in sight, and sight does not activate spiritual law. Faith does. The question is not whether this feels real to you in this moment. The question is whether you are willing to act as if it is real and then observe what happens, because the proof does not come before the obedience. The proof comes after. The obedience is what creates the proof. You speak the decree with your mouth. You align your actions with the truth of that decree. You move forward as if the flood is already here. And then, because divine law cannot be violated, reality shifts to match your declaration. Not because you convinced yourself it was true, not because you imagined it hard enough, but because you aligned yourself with a spiritual law that has been operating since the foundation of the world, and that law produced its inevitable result. Stop waiting to feel it. Start doing it. The feeling will follow the action, not the other way around. You do not wait until you feel brave to act bravely. You act bravely, and the feeling of bravery follows. You do not wait until you feel wealthy to speak wealth. You speak wealth. You act like wealth is already present, and the manifestation of wealth follows. This is how the law works. Belief does not require emotional certainty. Belief requires obedient action. Move. The fourth objection paralyzes even the willing heart. My faith is too weak. I do not have the kind of faith that moves mountains. I read about the patriarchs, the prophets, the apostles, the great revivalists, and their faith was like steel, unshakable, unwavering, powerful. But mine is fragile. It breaks under pressure. I doubt constantly. I question. I waver between belief and unbelief sometimes within the same hour. How can God use faith as weak as mine to execute something as powerful as this decree? I am not strong enough. You need to understand something about the mechanics of faith that will completely liberate you from this lie. Faith is not measured by how confident you feel. Faith is measured by whether you act. You can have trembling hands and still pull the trigger. You can have a shaking voice and still speak the word. You can have doubt screaming in your mind and still take the step forward. The power is not in your emotional state. The power is in the decree itself. You are not the source of the miracle. You are the conduit. And a conduit does not need to be strong. It only needs to be open. It only needs to allow the flow to pass through. Jesus said that faith the size of a mustard seed can move a mountain. Do you know how small a mustard seed is? It is almost invisible. It is one of the tiniest seeds in existence. And yet, Jesus said that is all you need. Not faith the size of a boulder, not faith the size of a tree, faith the size of a seed. Why? Because the power is not in the size of your faith. The power is in the size of the God your faith is connected to. A tiny seed connected to infinite power can move infinite obstacles. It is not about your strength. It is about His. Stop measuring your faith by how bold you feel. Stop comparing your internal experience to what you imagine the giants of faith must have felt. You do not know what they felt. You only know what they did. And what they did was act despite the fear, speak despite the doubt, move despite the uncertainty. That is faith, not the absence of struggle. The decision to obey in the presence of struggle. If you are willing to take the next step even though your knees are shaking, that is enough. If you are willing to speak the decree even though your voice is trembling, that is enough. The decree will do the rest. Your job is not to be strong. Your job is to be obedient. And obedience, even weak, trembling obedience, is all God needs to work with. The fifth objection is the one that has kept you locked in place longer than any other. This is impossible. The barrier is too big. The debt is too massive. The mountain is too high. I am looking at the size of what I am up against, and it is Goliath. It is a giant. And I am just David with a slingshot and 5 smooth stones. How can I possibly overtake something this large with something this small? The math does not work. The logic does not work. This cannot happen. Here is what you are missing, and it is the key to everything. David did not defeat Goliath because he had superior weapons. Goliath had a sword, a spear, armor, and 9 feet of height. David had a leather sling and 5 rocks. By every measurable standard, David should have died in the first 30 seconds of that confrontation. But David understood something that the entire army of Israel did not understand. He understood that the size of the enemy is completely irrelevant when the decree of heaven is on your side. He understood that the battle was not between him and Goliath. The battle was between the decree and the defiance. And decrees always win. When David walked onto that battlefield, Goliath was already dead. He just did not know it yet. The outcome had already been decided in the courts of heaven. The physical confrontation was just the manifestation of a spiritual verdict that had already been rendered. And when David released that stone, he was not hoping it would hit. He was not trying to make something happen. He was enforcing what had already been decided. The stone flew, the giant fell, and an entire nation witnessed the power of a decree operating through a willing vessel. Your debt is Goliath. Your impossibility is Goliath. The size of the obstacle you are facing is Goliath. And you are standing there with a slingshot, wondering how this could possibly work. But the size of Goliath does not matter. The size of the decree matters. And the decree that has been issued over your life is backed by the infinite, inexhaustible resources of heaven. The giant is already defeated. The debt is already overtaken. The flood is already released. You are not fighting to make it happen. You are simply enforcing what has already been decided. Pick up the stone, swing the sling, speak the decree, and watch the giant fall. These 5 objections have ruled your mind for too long. They are lies. Every single one of them, carefully constructed, strategically placed lies designed to keep you exactly where you are. And from this moment forward, when they whisper in your thoughts, you do not debate them, you do not entertain them, you do not give them space to make their case. You silence them with the decree. You speak the truth louder than the lie. You command the outcome louder than the doubt. And you move forward as if the battle is already won, because it is. Now we arrive at the moment of activation. Everything up to this point has been preparation. The laws have been delivered. The objections have been crushed. The truth has been spoken. But none of it matters if you do not execute. Knowledge without action is powerless. Truth without obedience is just information. And information does not change your bank account. Activation does. So what I am about to give you is not a suggestion. It is not a recommendation. It is your mobilization order. This is the 24-hour activation key that ignites the decree and triggers the manifestation of immediate results in your life. Tonight, before you go to sleep, I need you to do something that is going to feel uncomfortable. I need you to sit in silence. Not the silence of distraction, scrolling through your phone, letting your mind wander. The silence of presence. Turn off every device. Remove every distraction. Sit in a room where you will not be interrupted. Close your eyes, and for the next 5 minutes, I want you to do nothing but breathe and feel. Feel the weight of the waiting you have carried. Feel the exhaustion of the struggle. Feel the fear of the debt. Do not run from it. Do not suppress it. Feel it fully. Let it rise. Let it fill your chest. Let it bring tears if it needs to. And then, when you have felt the full weight of where you have been, I want you to release it. With one long, slow exhale, let it go. Let the old frequency drain out of your body. Let the old story dissolve. And in the space that is created, feel something new rising. Feel the certainty that the waiting is over. Feel the presence of the decree settling into your spirit like a heavy, warm blanket. Feel the shift. This is not imagination. This is alignment. And alignment is everything. Tomorrow morning, the moment you wake, before your feet touch the floor, before you reach for your phone, before the noise of the day floods your mind, you stop. You breathe. 3 deep, intentional breaths, in through your nose, filling your lungs completely. Hold for 3 seconds, out through your mouth, emptying fully. Do this 3 times. And with each breath, you are doing more than oxygenating your body. You are creating a gap between sleep and the chaos of the day. You are establishing a moment of sacred space where the decree can be spoken without interference. This is the hinge. This is the pivot point. 3 breaths. Do not skip this. Then, within 60 seconds of waking, you speak the verse of command, not silently, not in your head, out loud, with your physical voice. Because when you speak, you release sound into the atmosphere. Sound is vibration. Vibration is frequency. And frequency is the language the universe responds to. Here is the verse. And you need to memorize it because you are going to speak it multiple times a day for the next 90 days. By God's holy decree, my income is multiplied. My debt is overtaken. The flood is here now. Speak it slowly. Speak it clearly. Do not rush through it like a religious formula. Feel every word. Taste every word. Let the weight of the decree settle on your tongue as you release it into the room. But speaking it once is not the activation. For the next 3 minutes, you are going to repeat this verse 3 times, and each repetition is going to carry a different emotional frequency. The first time you speak it with calm authority. This is the voice of someone who knows the verdict has been delivered, and there is no reason to shout, no reason to beg, no reason to plead. The decree is a fact. You are simply announcing it. Calm, steady, certain. The second time you speak it, you increase the intensity. This is the voice of someone who is beginning to feel the reality of what they are declaring. The emotion is rising. The conviction is deepening. You are no longer just saying words. You are inhabiting them. The third time you speak it with absolute possession. This is the voice of someone who is holding the manifested result in their hands right now. The debt cancellation is real. The income multiplication is real. The flood is real. And you are standing in the middle of it, drenched, overwhelmed, victorious. Feel it. Let your body respond to the emotion. Let your voice crack if it needs to. Let the tears come if they come. This is not performance. This is embodiment. After you have spoken the decree 3 times, you sit in silence again, just for 60 seconds. And in that silence, you visualize with every sense you possess. You see the debt marked as paid. You see the zero balance. You see the letter that says the account is closed. You see the check deposited into your account. You see the number that represents the multiplication of your income. Do not visualize in vague terms. Visualize with precision. See the specific numbers. See the specific documents. See your hand holding the proof. And as you see it, feel it. Feel the relief flooding your chest. Feel the weight lifting off your shoulders. Feel the smile spreading across your face. Feel the gratitude rising in your spirit. Feel the certainty that this is no longer a future event. This is a present reality that is making its way to you through time. The gap is closing. The flood is coming, and you are ready. Throughout your day, you have one assignment, and it is the most important assignment you will receive. You must find and document one piece of evidence of the flood, just one. It does not need to be dramatic. It does not need to be the final breakthrough. It can be small, it can be subtle, but it must be real. A discount at the store you were not expecting, a refund that came through, a bill that was lower than you thought it would be, a coin you found on the ground, a phone call from someone offering help, a sudden idea that drops into your mind, a moment of peace in the middle of a stressful situation, anything that feels like a sign that the decree is active. And when you find it, you document it. You write it down, you take a picture, you send yourself a voice memo, you mark the moment. Because when you document the evidence, you train your awareness to see what is already happening. And what you see, you receive more of. Most people miss the miracles because they are waiting for the earthquake when God is showing up in the whisper. They are looking for the tidal wave when God is sending the ripple. And because they dismiss the small signs as coincidence, as random chance, as meaningless, they train themselves to be blind. And blindness blocks the flood. Do not make that mistake. Honor the small evidence, celebrate it, thank God for it, and watch how the small becomes large, how the ripple becomes the wave, how the evidence compounds until the manifestation is undeniable. Before you sleep, you close the loop. You repeat the verse of command one final time. This is not optional. This is the seal. You open the day with the decree. You walked through the day inside the frequency of the decree. You documented the evidence of the decree. And now you close the day with the decree, locking in the frequency, sealing the work, preparing the ground for tomorrow's continuation. Speak it with gratitude. Speak it with confidence. Speak it knowing that while you sleep, the decree is working, the flood is moving, and the overtake is in process. This is your rhythm for the next 90 days. Not 30, 90, because 30 days breaks the old pattern. 60 days establishes the new pattern, and 90 days transforms the new pattern into your identity. This is not a challenge. This is not an experiment. This is a war effort, and wars are won by soldiers who obey orders with absolute precision, who show up every single day regardless of how they feel, who execute the mission even when the enemy is screaming that it is pointless. The standard is 95% obedience or higher. If you miss more than 5 days out of 90, you are not serious, you are experimenting, and experiments do not activate decrees. Obedience does. Every Sunday at 6 p.m., you audit yourself, you review the evidence you documented throughout the week, you assess your obedience rate, you look at where you are in the cycle, and you recommit, not because you are measuring God's faithfulness. God's faithfulness is constant. You are measuring your alignment with the frequency of the decree, because the decree is always active. The flood is always moving. The question is whether you are staying aligned with it or drifting back into the old frequency of doubt, fear, and lack. And here is the tool that will sustain you through the entire 90 days. I call it the system of evidence, and it is going to become your most powerful weapon against doubt. You are going to keep a journal, physical or digital. It does not matter. And every single day, you are going to write down the evidence you found, the small signs, the subtle shifts, the unexpected blessings, the moments of favor. And at the end of each week, you are going to read them out loud, all of them. You are going to rehearse the evidence. You are going to remind yourself that the decree is not inactive. It is moving, it is working, and you are in the path of the flood. Let me show you what this looks like in practice. On day 1, you find a quarter on the ground. You document it. On day 2, a bill comes in $10 less than expected. You document it. On day 3, someone offers to buy you coffee. You document it. On day 4, you get a kind email from someone you were not expecting to hear from. You document it. By the end of the week, you have 7 pieces of evidence. And when you read them out loud on Sunday, you realize something profound. The flood is not coming. The flood is here. It is just building momentum. And the small evidences are the first drops of rain before the storm. This system does 2 critical things. First, it trains your awareness to see what is already happening. Most people live in spiritual blindness, unable to recognize the miracles happening all around them because they are so fixated on what is not happening yet. This journal breaks the blindness. It tunes your frequency to the movement of the decree. Second, it builds a testimony. It creates proof that you can return to when doubt tries to creep back in. When the enemy whispers that nothing is changing, you pull out the journal and you read the evidence. And the evidence silences the lie. This is not busy work. This is the mechanism by which you hold the frequency during the gap between the promise and the manifestation. And holding the frequency is everything. Now we arrive at the moment of the identity shift, and this is where everything you have heard, everything you have received, everything you have aligned with becomes permanent. Because a decree is not just information. A decree is not just a promise. A decree is a legal verdict that changes your status, your position, your identity in the eyes of heaven and earth. And the identity you carried into this message is not the identity you will carry out of it. The old you, the one who waited in the shadows, wondering if your turn would ever come, the one who begged and hoped and pleaded, the one who saw yourself as a victim of circumstance, as someone at the mercy of an economy you could not control, that version of you is being washed away by the flood, and in its place, a new identity is being established, an identity of authority, an identity of possession, an identity of someone who does not ask for wealth but commands it, who does not hope for breakthrough but enforces it, who does not wait for the flood but stands in the middle of it and declares, "I am here, I am ready, and I will not be moved." You are no longer the one who waits. You are the one who receives. You are no longer the one who begs. You are the one who commands. You are no longer the one burdened by debt. You are the one whose debt has been overtaken by divine decree. This is not motivation. This is not a pep talk designed to make you feel better for a few hours until reality crashes back in. This is the legal announcement of your new status in the kingdom. And once this status is announced, once this identity is claimed, the universe has no choice but to respond. The flood does not come to those who hope it will come. The flood comes to those who know they are standing in its path and refuse to move. Let me tell you who you are now. You are the enforcer of God's holy decree. You are the one chosen to demonstrate what happens when a human being aligns completely with divine law. You are the testimony that will silence every skeptic, every doubter, every voice that said it could not be done. You are the proof that the decree is real, that the flood is real, that the overtake is real. And when your debt is annihilated, when your income multiplies beyond what you thought possible, when the manifestation is so undeniable that even your enemies have to acknowledge it, they will ask you how it happened. And you will tell them, not with pride, not with arrogance, but with the calm certainty of someone who knows they did not create the miracle. They simply obeyed the decree. They aligned with the frequency. They held the position. And the law did what the law always does. It produced the result. This is who you are now, not who you hope to become, not who you are trying to be. This is who you are in this moment, whether you feel it or not, whether your bank account reflects it or not, whether anyone else sees it or not. The decree has spoken. Your identity has shifted. And what remains is for you to walk in that identity with such absolute conviction that reality has no choice but to bend. And so now, I am going to ask you to do something that is going to solidify this shift in a way that nothing else can. I am going to give you a juramento, a sworn declaration, and you are going to speak it out loud, not to me, not to the universe, to yourself. Because the most powerful declarations are the ones you make in the mirror, the ones you speak when no one is listening except the most important listener, which is you. This is not about convincing God. God already knows who you are. This is about convincing the old version of you to step aside and let the new version take the throne. Here is the juramento. Speak it slowly. Speak it with your full chest. Speak it until you hear the shift in your own voice from recitation to reality. I accept the holy decree that has been issued over my life. I am no longer a beggar of fortune. I am the enforcer of divine law. I am no longer waiting for wealth. I am commanding the multiplication of my income. I am no longer burdened by debt. I am executing the overtake. The flood is not coming. The flood is here. I am standing in the path of the tsunami, and I will not be moved. I am the chosen vessel through which God will demonstrate His power. I am the testimony that will silence every doubt. I am the proof that the decree is real. My income is multiplied. My debt is overtaken. The battle is over. The verdict is final, and I receive it now. Say it. Say it until the words stop, feeling foreign. Say it until the declaration feels like memory instead of prophecy. Say it until you believe it, not because you are trying to believe it, but because something deeper than your mind knows it is true. This is not affirmation. This is not positive self-talk. This is the legal ratification of your new identity, and once you speak it, you seal it. Now, there is a reason the decree has been issued at this exact moment in history, at this exact moment in your life. It is not random. It is not coincidence. The timing is divine, and the purpose is strategic. You have been positioned, whether you realize it or not, as a demonstration model. You are going to be the proof that the principles in this message are not theory. They are law, and when law is obeyed, results are inevitable. Your life is about to become a billboard that declares to everyone who knows you, to everyone who has watched your struggle, to everyone who doubted whether God was real or whether faith was just, wishful thinking, that the decree is active, the flood is real, and the overtake is unstoppable. But there is something you need to understand about the mechanics of this demonstration. The decree does not manifest in a vacuum. It manifests through obedience. And the most powerful form of obedience is the kind that defies logic, the kind that requires you to act before you see, to move before you have proof, to give before you have received. This is the faith that activates the law at its highest level. And so I am about to give you a command, a single action you must take in the next 24 hours, and this action is going to feel strange. It is going to feel risky. It is going to feel like it makes no sense. And that is exactly why it works. Here is your order. In the next 24 hours, I want you to find one bill in your house that represents the debt you are believing to overtake. It could be a credit card statement. It could be a medical bill. It could be a loan document. It could be a notice from a collection agency. Find one piece of paper that symbolizes the bondage you are breaking free from. And I want you to take that piece of paper, hold it in your hands, look at it, and speak the verse of command directly to it. By God's holy decree, my income is multiplied, my debt is overtaken. The flood is here now. Speak it 3 times to that bill. Speak it with authority. Speak it with the certainty that you are not asking the bill to go away. You are commanding it to be nullified under divine law. And then, after you have spoken the decree 3 times, I want you to do something that is going to feel even stranger. I want you to write one word across the top of that bill. the word is nullified. Not paid, not pending, nullified. Because paid implies you had to work for it, you had to earn it, you had to generate the resources to satisfy the debt. Nullified means the debt itself was declared illegal, was overturned by a higher authority, was rendered void by divine decree. Write that word, mark that bill, and then place it somewhere you will see it every single day for the next 90 days, not hidden in a drawer, not buried in a file, somewhere visible. Because every time you see that word, you are reminding yourself that the decree is active, the overtake is in process, and the flood is moving. This is not symbolic. This is activational. When you mark that bill with the word nullified, you are making a public declaration in the spiritual realm that you believe the decree more than you believe the debt. You are announcing that you are no longer operating under the jurisdiction of lack. You are operating under the jurisdiction of divine law. And divine law always, always overrides human law. The creditor may say you owe. The bill may say the balance is due, but the decree says the debt is illegal. And when you mark that bill, you are choosing which authority you are going to obey. Now, let me speak to something that is, you're going to try to stop you from doing this. Fear. The moment you pick up that bill, the moment you prepare to speak the decree over it, fear is going to rise up and whisper, "This is foolish. This is not going to work. You are going to look stupid. You are setting yourself up for disappointment. What if nothing happens? What if the bill is still there in 90 days? What if you do all of this and the debt does not go away?" That voice is not truth. That voice is the last desperate attempt of the old frequency to maintain control. And you are going to silence it the same way you have silenced every other objection. You are going to act despite it. You are going to move in the presence of it. You are going to obey the decree louder than you listen to the fear. Here is what I know to be true, and I know it not because I hope it is true, but because I have seen it operate in my own life and in the lives of countless others who have obeyed this principle. The moment you mark that bill, the moment you declare it nullified, something shifts in the unseen realm. The spiritual atmosphere around that debt changes. The frequency changes. And when the frequency changes, the physical manifestation must eventually follow. It may not happen instantly. It may not happen in the way you expect, but it will happen, because law is law. And when you align with divine law, divine results are inevitable. There is a story I need to tell you before we close, because it is going to anchor everything you have heard. There was a woman, a single mother with 3 children, drowning in debt, medical bills from an emergency surgery, credit card debt from trying to survive after a divorce, a car loan she could barely make payments on. She was working 2 jobs, sleeping 4 hours a night, and still falling further behind every month. And one night, at the end of herself, she heard a message similar to this one. She heard about the decree. She heard about the overtake. And something in her spirit said, "This is real. This is for me. This is my way out." She did exactly what I am telling you to do. She found the largest bill, the one that terrified her the most, a medical bill for over $30,000. She held it in her hands. She spoke the decree over it. And then she wrote the word nullified across the top in red ink. She taped it to her bathroom mirror where she would see it every single morning. And for the first 30 days, nothing changed. The bill was still there. The creditors were still calling. The pressure was still crushing. But she did not waver. She spoke the decree every morning. She documented the small evidences. She held the frequency. On day 43, she received a letter in the mail. The hospital had reviewed her account and determined that she qualified for a financial assistance program she did not even know existed. The entire $30,000 bill was forgiven, erased, nullified. She fell to her knees in her kitchen and sobbed, not because she was surprised, but because the decree had done exactly what it said it would do. The debt was overtaken, the flood had arrived, and her life was never the same. That was 8 years ago. Today, she owns her own business. She is completely debt-free, and she teaches this principle to everyone she meets because she knows it is real. She is the proof. You are about to become the proof. Not in 8 years, not in 5 years. In 90 days, you are going to have your own testimony. You are going to have your own evidence. You are going to have your own story of the moment the decree manifested in your physical reality. And when that happens, you are going to remember this message. You are going to remember the moment you decided to believe. You are going to remember the moment you chose to obey. And you are going to understand that this was never about luck. This was never about chance. This was about law. And law does not fail. So here is my final word to you. The decree has been issued. The flood has been released. The overtake is in motion. Your only job is to hold the frequency, to obey the command, to mark the bill, to speak the verse, to document the evidence, and to refuse to move from your position of faith no matter what the circumstances look like. You are not waiting for the breakthrough. You are the breakthrough. You are not hoping for the miracle. You are the miracle. You are the living, breathing proof that God's decree is active, that divine law is real, and that the flood is here. The verdict has been given. The judgment has been rendered. The cosmic gavel has struck. And what has been decided in the courts of heaven is now making its way to the courts of earth. The payment is already in transit. The resources are already moving toward you. The debt is already marked for annihilation. And the income multiplication is already activated. You are standing at the exact coordinates where the tsunami makes landfall. Do not move. Do not doubt. Do not waver. The flood is here now. And now, I need you to do one final thing to seal this spiritual contract. This message was not designed to end with you. It was designed to flow through you. You are not just the recipient of the decree. You are the distributor. And the way you seal your own activation is by becoming the channel through which others receive theirs. So, I am going to ask you to do 3 things. And I am going to ask you to do them immediately, not later, not when you feel like it, but now. First, subscribe to this channel. Not because I need the numbers, because you need the alignment. When you subscribe, you are making a declaration that you are not a casual observer. You are an active participant. You are someone who is committed to staying in the frequency of the decree, to receiving every message, every update, every activation that is released. This is not about entertainment. This is about transformation. And transformation requires consistency. Subscribe now. Second, like this video. And I know that sounds trivial. I know it sounds like every other content creator asking for engagement, but this is different. When you press that thumbs up button, you are doing more than affirming the content. You are marking this moment. You are creating a timestamp in your own journey that says, "This is the day I said yes to the decree. This is the day I aligned with the flood. This is the day everything changed." Like this video, not for me, but for you. Because you are going to want to come back to this moment. You are going to want to remember the day the shift happened. Mark it now. Third, and this is the most important, share this message. Send it to one person who needs to hear it. One person who is drowning in debt. One person who is waiting for breakthrough. One person who needs to know that the decree is real. You do not need to explain it. You do not need to convince them. Just send them the link and let the message do what it was designed to do. Because when you share the decree, you multiply it. When you distribute the flood, you increase its flow. And the law of reciprocity states that what you give, you receive. When you become the channel through which someone else receives their breakthrough, you accelerate your own. Share it now. Do not wait. Do not overthink it. One person, one link. One act of obedience that seals the contract. The decree is final. The flood is here. The overtake is complete. You are no longer the one who waits. You are the one who possesses. You are no longer the one who begs. You are the one who commands. You are no longer the one burdened by debt. You are the one whose debt has been annihilated by divine decree. Go now. Mark the bill. Speak the verse. Document the evidence. And prepare yourself for the testimony you are about to carry. The tsunami has made landfall, and you are standing in the center of the flood.